Welcome to 2024 BBRE Awards, where I will show you the best bug bounty blog posts and write-ups of 2024. I have prepared 4 categories: the best blog post, the best tool, the best underrated, and the best overall bug bounty write-up of 2024. And I want to mention here that I am not competing with the Portswigger list. I think that list is great. It's just they focus more on the research aspect, while I focus strictly on bug bounty and things that are relevant, things that are write-ups from real bug bounty targets. And I hope you will enjoy the list. And with that out of the way, let's jump to the first category, which is the best blog post. And it was very difficult to choose one, so I also have 2 honorable mentions. And we start with the first one. It is the blog post by Doomer Hunter called 200K in 2 weeks, a clickbait title, but hopefully valuable advice. It is a very valuable advice about participating in the life hacking events. Doomer Hunter also described what a life hacking event is, if you're not familiar, of why people like me are so hyped about LHGs. This is the good blog post to get started, and then to also learn their approach, because it's written by Doomer Hunter, but they were collaborating with GaluChat, and yeah, they had an incredible result. They described all their methodology, their approach, what worked, what didn't, and I really like this one. If you like this blog post, also check out our interview with Doomer Hunter. He was here in this studio actually a few weeks ago, and we had some fun. We recorded a very good episode, so make sure to check this out. Then another honorable mention here goes to Shreyas Chavhan. I hope I read it more or less correctly. If I'm not, I'm very sorry. He describes his whole journey, and this blog post is about his first 12 months. And the detail that he describes is incredible. You can see the charts, you can see the time spent, you can see everything. I think I was the one that started doing something like this, but I think he takes it even further, and I just love to see things like that. I think it's very easy to share your earnings and things like that once you're already established, once you're making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. But what is really hard and really valuable as well is doing it from the very beginning. And this is exactly what happens on this blog post. It is incredible. And I wish Shreyas a lot of good luck, and I hope he will continue describing his journey like this. But then the award can only be one, and in my opinion, the best bug bounty blog post of 2024 was this one by Douglas Day, How I Became the Most Valuable Hacker. It's about Douglas' experience at H1305 LHE, where he won the MVH belt, which is a huge achievement. It is my dream to get this belt one day. So I really I'm going to come back to this blog post over and over again. Specifically, I would say this paragraph, that finding bugs is easy and the hard part is finding the scope. It kind of captures everything that I've learned last year while hanging out with the best bug bounty hunters in the world. It's something that I've noticed, that at this level, once you're at the LHE level, more or less everyone has the same advanced knowledge of all vulnerability classes. Of course, everyone or most people have one bug class where they are exceptional, and let's say they are exceptional at XSS. They can find XSS where other hunters would just give up at some point. But most of the bugs, they do not require this level of knowledge, and the hard part is finding the scope, is being in the correct place, is finding the correct application, access to this application. And this is basically what Douglas described in this blog post and in this paragraph specifically. So I would say this is the most valuable bug bounty advice that personally I learned throughout the whole last year. So the first BBRE award ever goes to Douglas. I think for the next year, if I continue doing this, I will actually get some physical rewards and I will ship them to the winners. But we'll see how it goes. If you would like to see that, let me know in the comments, and I will make sure to plan it that way the next year. With top blog posts out of the way, we'll go to the next category, which is top tool. And also I have two honorable mentions here. The first one is Lemma by DevParam. You can see this is my GitHub account, but it is not because I want to take credit for it. It's because this tool was so good that DevParam was asked to take it down. Well, actually, he was asked to take it down because of breach of some rules, but let's say it was too good to be working. What it does is it gives you a terminal and in a very, very seamless way distributes your workload across thousands of instances of Lambdas, I think, which basically allows you to bypass rate limiting. And I saw this being very, very useful in real attacks, in real bug bounty reports. So it is very, very, very good tool if you do an attack that requires you to bypass the rate limiting by locking the IP address. This is the tool that you want to use. Another honorable mention goes to the CSP bypass search website by Renipack. He aggregated a lot of publicly known CSP bypasses. So if you have an XSS, but it's blocked by CSP, and either you're not skilled enough to find the bypass yourself or you're too lazy, this is the website which you should open. You should look for known bypasses. I think it is very, very useful because I'm definitely too lazy to find bypasses myself, so I appreciate it a lot. But again, the award is only one. And in my opinion, the best tool of 2024 was HTTP Garden by Narf Industries. It is the tool that allows you to find inconsistencies between HTTP parsers. So you will have a reverse proxy in the middle and then the server in the backend. And you can send specific payloads and hoping that one of the two will interpret your input differently. So it works if you want to find a bug like request smuggling or something similar like that. I think this tool, it is really advanced. It does really advanced analysis to make these attacks possible. There is also a whole talk about these attacks, which is really, really good. There are also a lot of examples in this repo about attacks you can try or some inconsistencies that happen, that maybe some of them are fixed, but some of them are still in the wild because they weren't exploited in a real world target, so nobody wanted to fix them, but maybe in a very specific situation you will. I can definitely attribute one of my findings directly to this tool, to this repository. So I think it is the best tool of 2024, and the best tool award goes to HTTP Garden. With that said, we have 2 out of 4 categories out of the way, and now we'll go to the top underrated category. And I also have 2 honorable mentions here and one very, very clear winner. And each of these blog posts, I would say, is underrated for different reasons. The first one is the Zoom session takeover by basically exploiting an XSS in the cookie. And this blog post, it is really, really, really well written. You know, the previous category, top blog post, it was about blog posts and not write-ups. So I didn't consider write-ups for that category. In terms of the quality of the write-up, I would say this is the best blog post that I am covering today. And the way it is explained, it is really clear. It starts with an XSS, with the way how to find a gadget to exploit the XSS in a cookie. Covers a lot of basics, but then it goes to the part where to show the account takeover or the session takeover, to be very precise. It also describes the auth. If you're a member of BBRE Premium and you've read the auth articles, this is not going to be something too new to you. You should be familiar with the techniques used here. But if you're not a member, check out this blog post because it describes really well how you use XSS to steal the access token by abusing the auth flow. So like what is the state, why the state has to be set, what is the select account parameter. All of these things are really, really well explained here. So this blog post is really nice. The reason why it landed in the underrated category is that it was rated by Zoom as a medium because they differentiate between account takeover, which is a persistent account takeover, and session takeover, which means you can just take over the user session. And the researchers also started to like show more impact in the way of, for example, capturing the video of the victim, because it's a Zoom and Zoom website. If you're using Zoom to have a conference call through the browser will have the permission to use your camera, to use your microphone. And I think everyone is aware that the JavaScript that's executed as the result of an XSS also has access to your camera, to your microphone. But it's something that I think it won't upgrade your severity directly from medium to high, because it's not actually something unexpected. But if the program is maybe 50-50 between rating your bug as a medium and as a high, and you do something like this, you will get the higher severity, or maybe you will get the lower severity, but you will get a bonus. Just, I think, putting something like this in your report is very nice. And I actually don't know if this was eventually upgraded from medium to high, because the blog post doesn't say it. I think it means it wasn't upgraded, it stayed as a medium, because I think they would write it otherwise. But I think it's a really, really nice attack, good chain, very, very good blog post. So if it stayed as a medium, I think it is underrated, not because I think Zoom has mishandled it in a way. I just think a lot of work was put into it, and I just want to appreciate that. The next blog post in the underrated category, we have the TE0 HTTP request smuggling, which this type of request smuggling was thought to be impossible because it doesn't really make sense. Because if you're familiar with request smuggling, you have basically two headers to describe the length of the body of the request, which is content length and the transfer encoding. Content length is the one we all know because it's in almost every single request with a body. And transfer encoding, usually from when sent from the client, is not used, but is the one that has the priority. So request smuggling happens when this prioritization is done incorrectly. So usually you will have the transfer encoding header that's slightly modified so that one component, let's say you have reverse proxy in the server, or from your perspective, first reverse proxy, then the server. And it happens when one component does not see the transfer encoding header, so it chooses the content length header, and the other component sees both, so it prioritizes the transfer encoding header, which was first ignored. So this is the normal situation. So the TL0 was thought to be impossible because it works the way that to the first component, to the reverse proxy, you send the transfer encoding header and you hope for it to be somehow dropped by the second component, which normally shouldn't happen because it's the one with the priority, but it did work. I think what happened here, if I were to guess, is that first it's an options request, so maybe this code base was not examined as thoroughly, and then there's no content length in this request at all. So my guess would be that there was some code that said, if there is no content length header, treat the content length as 0. So it would treat the body as 0, even though there was transfer encoding header. And that's how the smuggling happened. And this happened in the Google Cloud Proxy. That's the one that you always see when you have the via 1.1 Google request. So the impact of it was huge because you would basically send a request like this. And this second one down here, it would be added to the queue. So a random user would be redirected to your collaborator server with your cookies as well. So it's basically an account takeover of random people. And it worked on any server using the Google reverse proxy. So the impact of it is incredibly high. And the reason I put it in the underrated category Is also not because I think it was mishandled, because I think the bounty for it was 8.5K, which I'm assuming is the maximum for this particular asset in the Google VRP program. I just think compared to the overall impact, this is very low. Maybe it is not written in the blog post. Maybe the hunters did scale it up to multiple bug bounty programs, and maybe they did make tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars, but it is not in this blog post, so I'm assuming they didn't, and I would say this is underrated. So this is the second honorable mention in the underrated category. And before we do the actual reward for the most underrated report, we'll jump to the next category, because the report that I chose as the most underrated one is also the third report overall, and there could only be one candidate for the most underrated report, and it is what happened with Zendesk. If you're not familiar, what happened there is that Zendesk is the company that's used to handle support tickets, and you can access it through the website, but the way, we as users mostly use it, I'm sure most of you have used it at some point, maybe not knowing it's Zendesk, is you can reply to a ticket by replying to the email. And the way it works is that if you reply to the email from the same email you created the ticket, the whole ticket is also sent to all the people that are CC'd in the ticket. So they are added to the ticket. And you can add people to the ticket by adding them to the email as well. So up until now, it's all fine. But the problem was Zendesk was not verifying this email in any way. So you could claim my email, send the sort of reply to one of my tickets in any company using Zendesk. Then you would also CC to this email your own email address, and the whole conversation would be sent to your CC'd email address. The reason, the sort of root cause of this is this lack of verifying the email, because for this attack, you have to send the email as me, basically, and obviously you don't have the domain that allows you to do it. So this is the lack of the verification. And let's first focus on why I think this is one of the top reports overall, and let's then focus on why I think it is the underrated one. Because up until now, the impact you have is you can basically read any ticket, any support ticket. Of course, you also need to send, when you send this email, you need to know the ID of the ticket, but they are numeric, they are like 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is not an issue. But then the researcher also changed it with the sort of way Slack allows users to sign up. For Slack, you will also often have companies that allow anyone with the email address in the company domain to access their Slack instance. And you could change this to claim the support@company.com email by abusing login with Apple. So this is a really, really severe impact, as you can access all the support tickets and you can also access the Slack in a specific configuration. And I like this attack because verifying the incoming email, that's what the email DNS records like DMARC, SPF and other are used, which is something I never focus on. I don't even know which of these email records means what. And normally it doesn't have, we don't think about it as having a lot of impact, but in this particular scenario, when the system is receiving emails, it is impactful, because we all know these records from being out of scope of any HackerOne page, but it's out of scope when somebody reports that a specific domain does not have these DNS records. But this is not the case here. Here is the case where the code of Zendesk that receives emails, it doesn't check for these records on the domain of the sender. So you can send the email using the Linux sendmail command, and it will show as trusted. And I just like when things we all are aware of and we're all kind of ignoring, when things like that all of a sudden create such a huge impact like this. company. But now we'll jump to why I think it is underrated. It is underrated because the response by HackerOne was that this is out of scope. Because as I've said, these email records, these email DNS records are always out of scope. And the triager didn't realize these situations are different, and he just closed it as informative, actually, not out of scope. And I wouldn't put a huge blame on them. We know triagers are overworked and a mistake like this can happen. But the worst thing is that also the HackerOne mediation did not help in this case, which I think is a way bigger problem because it was an attack with a lot of impact, and I think mediation should help with this, but it didn't. So the hunter would get probably $5,000 from Zendesk, which they kind of missed out on. But then what they did is they started looking for companies that are basically using Zendesk, which is a lot. A lot of companies use Zendesk. And he started reporting this attack there, and he made a total of over $50,000. So he actually 10x'd his bounty for this report due to the HackerOne and Zendesk closing it as informative, which I think is a funny story, and I feel a sense of satisfaction because of it, because his report, which was a good one, a good bug, his report was mishandled, and then neither Zendesk nor HackerOne publicly apologized to them. Even worse, Zendesk issued they condemned his actions publicly. So yeah, I'm just really, really happy for him to get the 50K for it. And in my opinion, this is the third best report of 2024, and it's the winner of the BBRE 2024 Top Underrated report. Yeah, I hope that some companies and maybe HackerOne will take away something from this story, so these situations do not happen in the future. Then we jump to the second best report of 2024. It's actually one bug that was reported both to GitHub and GitLab, and this is the SAML authentication bypass. And it is another story of something that probably, if I were the one auditing this code, I would skip it. Because the way SAML works, SAML is the XML format that contains some signatures inside it. And because the signatures are inside it, you cannot just take the whole string, generate a signature from it, and then verify it, because the signature is inside. So it cannot work like that. It means that before you generate the signature, you have to parse the XML, you have to extract the part that you're interested in to sign it. And we know from the past that this complexity, this sort of parsing process, it's where bugs can happen, and it happened here as well. The way hunters were able to bypass this, they just put two signatures or two things that were signed inside of this SAML, and only one of them was verified, while the other one was actually used. It was because the first one was taken, and it was not the one that was actually meaningful. And you could basically log in as another user. You would have sort of your own email to which you could log in this part that was actually signed with the proper signature. And then in the other part that was not signed, you would have any victim's email. So it would be a zero-click account takeover, server-side account takeover. I am not aware of any mitigating circumstances in these cases. So this led to account takeover on GitLab, the same on GitHub as well. We do not see the bounties for these reports, but I'm assuming it's max for both GitLab and GitHub, because I don't see a reason of why not. So yeah, I really, really love this bug, and really, really good job for the researchers. And with that, we'll now go to the winner of, in my opinion, the best overall bug bounty report of 2024. And it is this one. It is the blog post about 4 bugs in the Microsoft a healthcare chatbot, which some of them will be aware of this because I already created a video about this. This write-up, it has everything. The impact is huge because you access medical records of other users. The complexity is nice. We have 4 bugs. The first one was the path traversal in the sort of secondary path traversal in the microservice and in the way you work with the API on the backend. Then we have the escape of the sandbox by bypassing the allow list. Then we have another escape of the sandbox by abusing something that is inside the allow list. And then finally we have reading the memory, which is also outside of this sandbox. And we also have a huge bounty of $204,000. So in my opinion, this is the best bug bounty write-up of 2024. If you want to see this one in details, it is the video is on your screen right now. You can watch it in a second. For now, that's all for the 2024 BBRE Awards. Here are all the reports that have won and that were mentioned during this video. I'm very open to hear your comments. Which ones do you agree with? Which ones do you disagree with? Is there anything I completely missed and I didn't even mention it and you think it should be there? I will be very, very interesting to read your comments down below. For now, thank you so much for watching and goodbye.